Hey, welcome back to Live Bold and Boss Up. It's your girls, Steph and Ash, and today we chat with Alison Spann from Spookstock Foundation. She has an amazing story on how she got to where she is today and why she is supportive of Spookstock Foundation. Spoiler alert, her dad was in the CIA. She has some really cool stories about that, and we just want to share about the foundation.
Allison, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So good seeing you. We can't wait to dive into Spookstock and everything. And I want to get your background too. But I guess just starting off, tell us what Spookstock is.
So, I currently work for a nonprofit and we kind of fly under the radar, I would say, just because of the sensitive nature of the students and their parents who we work with every day. But the long and the short of it is we support the children of fallen shadow warriors. So there are three foundations, nonprofits that we fund or we help fund, and those foundations give scholarships to the children of fallen intelligence officers, which includes CIA officers, Navy SEALs, Green Beret, Delta. And the three nonprofits that we currently support are the Special Operations Warrior Foundation, which is based right here in
Which
Tampa.
we love.
Yes,
Yes.
they're
We had
amazing.
we had Clay on our podcast a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, they're just an amazing organization, great staff, and they have so many students. I want to say they have over 900 students in their pipeline, and they truly intimately know each one of their students, which is,
Right.
it's amazing. And then we also support the CIA Officers Memorial Foundation, which is for fallen CIA officers. And then we recently started supporting a foundation called No Greater Sacrifice, and they do not only the children of the fallen, but also the children of the severely wounded, which is something, my father was killed in war, so he was a KIA. And I never really thought about, the students whose parents came back but were severely maimed.
Mhm.
And I've spoken to so many students from that organization who had parents who came back as double, triple amputees, and they grew up in hospitals at the burn clinic in San Antonio, at the hospitals in the DMV area, and their parent came back a different person. And it's, you just never, you think, oh, they're so lucky, their dad came back, their mom came back, but they came back just, completely maimed. And that's a struggle in and of itself. So it's been a great honor, being able to meet all of the students, and the monetary donations that we give, I think, are really important. Obviously, helping fund education is a huge thing, but getting to know the kids and forming a community has really been what's been most beneficial for me, and I think for them too.
Mhm. Very rewarding.
What you have to share how you even got into this, because we were right before we hit record, we were chatting about your previous job as a recorder or a reporter. So how did you even get into this? Tell us your background and your story on that.
Yeah, so started out as a local news reporter. I mean, that was what I really always wanted to do. I grew up watching the news. My dad was really big on, you should always be informed of what's happening in the world. And we always had the news on in my household. So I would see all these news anchors. I grew up watching like Hannity and Colmes on Fox at like 8 years old, which is not typically what an 8-year-old, would be watching on TV. But so I always wanted to be the person that was sharing the information. And then after all of the loss in my life, I realized that everyone has a story. Everyone has a story, and being able to go into local communities and tell those stories was super rewarding. How I got involved with the nonprofit I work for now is I was a beneficiary. So I was a beneficiary of the CIA Officers Memorial Foundation. My father was a CIA officer, and he was the first American killed after 9/11. So he was killed on November 5th. I'm sorry, November 25th of 2001. And, you know, traditionally there were a ton of nonprofits and agencies to aid fallen military, but there wasn't really anything in place for the CIA. So after my father died, they saw, oh, he has three young kids, and they created the CIA Officers Memorial Foundation, which sent me to school. It sent me to Pepperdine, which is amazing, and, sent me well on my way into my career in news. And, I always wanted to be a news anchor. I did that. And then after COVID, I started getting more involved with the nonprofit that I work for now. They asked me to MC one of their events and then be on the board. And then eventually a full-time job offer came. It wasn't ever anything I ever saw myself doing, but after working in news, especially during COVID, and it was such a crazy, chaotic time, I was like, okay, it's time to take a step back and maybe do something a little different. And I thought this was the perfect, job for me because I'm a little bit older. I mean, some people say to me like I was the first child out of the GWAT, the Global War on Terror, so I'm the oldest. So it's been great getting to know other kids who have gone through the same thing and getting to help them in their careers and their future. Um, I think one of the best things that you can do in life in general is build a community, and it's so fulfilling to build a community with a group of people who have such a similar life story, because it's a pretty unique, not everyone's parent goes to Afghanistan, Iraq, and gets killed so suddenly. And so it's been great to build that community with so many like-minded people.
Right. It must make it at least a little bit, I don't want to say easy, but digestible or livable when you can talk to other kids or other people about basically the same thing that they're going through.
Absolutely. Oh, well, I feel like it's really validating too.
Right.
You go through all these emotions, and, the death of a parent, any parent always comes with other baggage that I think the outside world doesn't really think about. So, it's the parent dies and that's really sad, but then there's so many other things that come into play, like family dynamics and stuff. And, those are things that aren't really talked about publicly, but meeting someone else who's gone through the same thing, whether, if it's a step parent or it's grandparents or whatever, there's all these family dynamics at play that make things challenging after a parent dies. And so to be able to talk to students who have gone through exactly the same thing as you, it's super validating. Even from my own experience, like, oh my gosh, I'm not crazy. Like, someone else has experienced this too. And it's really cathartic.
Right. What's one of the biggest things that you realize, like, oh, this is normal. These other individuals are going through that too.
I would say definitely the family dynamics. My parents were divorced. My mom died a month and 3 days after my father was killed. So I was left with no parents.
lot.
There were step parents in play. There were grandparents in play. There was a lot of stuff, a lot of moving parts during that time. And I think just being able to talk to other students who have, similar family dynamics, I think has been like the linchpin that's really like bonded a lot of us closely together.
Right. Right. Because at that point you're like, okay, great. Now who do I lean on?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Right.
It's, families you think after tragedy are really going to come together, but oftentimes it makes those, little cracks that were there kind of really break apart. And that can often be harder than the initial loss. And people think I'm crazy when I say that, but, losing my parents was very traumatic, but it's almost like the actions of some of the other people afterwards that were far more traumatic. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if my mom and dad were here, they would not even speak to these people anymore. But so it's been good meeting, not good that people have gone through these things, but being able to meet other people and connect about that stuff,
Right.
I think it's been amazing.
Yeah. And then you're stronger because of it.
Oh, for sure.
Right. So you have to share. I am so engrossed, or I was engrossed with your story before when we chatted earlier about having parents in the CIA, and like you didn't even know they were in the CIA. Like, tell us all about that, because I think that's fascinating.
Yeah. So my dad, my whole life was in the military. He was a Marine, a U.S. Marine. We grew up in Jacksonville, North Carolina. He was at Camp Lejeune, and I kind of just always knew my dad as being in the military. He was gone for long portions of time. And in 1999, I was finishing up first grade, I believe, first or second grade. I was really young. And one night he was like, okay, we have like these really important people coming into the house. I need you to watch your sister. Be really good. Like, it was one of those, like, you need to be really good. Here's an incentive. Like, we'll do X, Y, and Z if you guys are quiet. And these two guys came to our house. They talked to my parents, my mom and dad in the kitchen. I watched my sister in my room. I had all these little activities set up for her. And then they left, and it was a job interview, and I thought my dad was getting a job at the State Department. So we moved to Virginia. He, had a long trek into work every day, but he was home every night at 6 o'clock, which was really different than his military career. And he had a few stints where he went off for, months at a time, but I just didn't really think about oh, at 9, I didn't think, oh, someone who works an office job at the State Department isn't going to be gone for like 6 months, 3 months at a time. So yeah, when my dad was killed, I had no idea he was a CIA officer. I thought he worked for the State Department. So
you're learning a lot about him too.
Right.
yeah,
Oh, hi, Bernie. Bernie wants to
Bernie
be on the
wants to-
podcast.
he said I want some attention.
So tell us the story of when he came in that one night and like you were like, oh, okay. He like told you like a silly story.
Crazy story that
Okay, sure, Dad. You just
Yeah.
have a boring job. Whatever, I'll believe you.
yeah, I came home from school one day and he was home, which was, very unusual because he, came home at the typical like 6 o'clock time, and he was on the couch and his stomach was bandaged up and he had like a bloody bandage. It was a pretty big gash on his stomach. And he had some other injuries before, like when he was in the Marine Corps, like he had a parachuting incident where he pulled the shoe and it like sliced his eye open and stuff like that. So I was a little bit used to that, but again, didn't translate to me that the State Department, you shouldn't have these kind of injuries
Right.
at a desk job. And so I asked him what happened. And again, I'm like 8 or 9 at this point, and he gave me some crazy story about how they were doing some training exercise and he was swimming with a shark, and sharks have like sandpaper skin and it sliced him open. And we were really into sharks. We loved Shark Week. That was like our thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, really? Like, that's so cool. And I just kind of believed it and didn't really question it. And now looking back, I'm like, I wonder what actually,
Right.
yeah, what
Oh my
actually took
gosh.
place.
How cool. Like you probably looked at him like, wow, you're my hero. Like my dad swims with sharks. How cool is that? Like it's so cute, that dynamic of like, how you viewed him, right?
Yeah.
How sweet.
And you just like, as a kid, I just feel like I just didn't question as much as I should have. I just kind of took it for like, that's what it is. And, did not make the connection until, I was told. I believe the day they told me that he had been killed was the day I found out that he worked for the CIA.
Wow. That's really cool. I wonder if any of that stuff's like declassified where you can go back and read like what happened, because they must document that stuff, right?
Yes, there has been a struggle for a while, I would say, with my grandfather and them. My grandfather, I mean, it's his son, obviously, so he's gone through like 20 plus years of trying to figure out exactly what happened. Um, since my dad died, you would think that they would just be forthcoming with a lot of the information, and they have been on some fronts. But for example, the autopsy, which my grandfather wanted, they told him that it was property of the U.S. government.
Oh my
So
gosh.
there's actually a hospital in Germany, in Lundstal, Germany, where they took my dad's body, and it's where they take a lot of injured servicemen and stuff to take them out of country into Germany. And so my grandfather stayed up for 3 months, every night calling Germany, trying to get somebody to get the autopsy. And finally, the doctor that had done the autopsy sent it to him, but he had to call. And there were some things in the autopsy that really made him question, like the official story and things like that. I mean, ultimately, my grandfather's very hyper focused on it, but it is his son, his only son, his oldest child. Like, of course, he wants to know every detail. And every time I go home, he still talks to me about it. And, it's, we've been to Afghanistan. He spoke to people who were on scene. He's watched all the videos. Ultimately, I don't think we'll ever know exactly what happened there. My dad is dead. People on the ground have differing stories, and some of it maybe they are keeping from us, but we don't know exactly what happened, and I don't think we ever will.
Right. Well, it's hard losing a child, right? I think when you have a child, you always assume you're going to go 1st. So
Absolutely.
to lose a child, that just like throws you into a different world.
Mindset.
Yeah, mindset.
Oh, it really
yeah.
does. When seeing my grandfather go through it, my dad was 32 when he passed away, so he's really young. And it's been 23 years. It will be 23 years this year, 23, 24. 23. I'm bad at math. But yeah, just seeing him go through the motions of losing a child, and just seeing how, I mean, it has really destroyed him in a lot of ways. I mean, just has paraphernalia all over the house of my dad. He constantly wants to go through, the autopsy. I've never seen the photos, but I have read through the autopsy and stuff like that. And, wants to talk about, different things that have transpired through the years. And just, I can't imagine. I mean, I don't have children yet. One day I will, God willing, but I can't imagine losing them, just seeing him go through that and how much it still affects him, you know. And my dad wasn't like a young kid when he died, you know, he was in his 30s, but I think it's always your baby, no matter how old they are. And it was a devastating loss for him. I mean, for the whole family, but I've really seen in particular how much it's weighed on my grandfather. And I think a lot of that does have to do with just, not knowing exactly what happened and still having those lingering questions. Yeah.
Well, you are definitely carrying on his legacy, and I think it's amazing what you're doing with the organization. And I think he'd be very proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm sure your grandfather is.
absolutely. I mean, I know you wanted to be a reporter all your life and you did that, check. And now you're and now you're carrying on his legacy. That's amazing. So tell us again how it connects with the Special Operations Wounded Warrior. How does that connect?
So, Special Operations Warrior Foundation is one of the foundations that's our beneficiaries. So, we donate money to Special Operations Warrior Foundation, and two other nonprofits that specifically send the children of the fallen to college. They do, I think each of them individually have like other little things that they help with too, but the primary focus of each foundation is college education because that's so important. And so it's really important for us to, donate that money to these organizations. But what we've kind of started to move into is more of a mentorship role on top of the monetary donations, because again, and going back to the family dynamics, some of the children do have a surviving parent who's really involved, and, things have ran relatively smoothly since the loss, but others, have the family dynamics are hard. And so to have someone there who's mentoring you, from college and beyond, I think it's really important. And, even if family dynamics are great, just having someone say to you, what are you interested in? And then being able to pair that student with a mentor in the space or with the recruiting or HR manager in the space, I think is really important. And we've done some connecting and networking over email and phone calls, but we found like the best method is to put a student right in front of somebody and have them talk in person. So that's really what we're moving into now. We did our first career fair in DC in November. We had 14 companies come out and it was successful. I think, there's always room for improvement. But we have a career fair coming up here in Tampa on Tuesday, May the 7th from 9 a.m. until noon. And we have 19 companies coming, but we're still looking for interested parties. We have some students who have some more unique majors, I would say, like 2D animation and construction engineering. And a lot of the companies that we work with regularly are defense contracting companies and, big firms out of DC. So then those are great. We love having them, but some of the students, their careers are just more specific. Like, for example, if I was going through the career fair, when I was that age, I would have been in local news and I wouldn't have really been interested in working for a defense contractor. So we are still looking for more companies to come on board and help place these students in careers. All of the students are 21 plus. Majority of them are college graduates. Some of them are in their senior year. And I believe the last I checked with SOWF, we have 4 Gold Star spouses who will be attending as well. So we have over 30 beneficiaries coming to the career fair. They're all willing and able to work. And so if anyone in the local Tampa area is interested, we'd love to have them out.
Yeah. It's really good to hear, like going back to how you help those individuals and the one-on-one conversations. I think that's good to hear, right? Because mental health is such like a big thing right now, even for individuals that don't come from a military family. So it's great to hear you guys are doing on that side, and it's really great to hear about the job fairs that you're doing, right? Because um, you know, that's what we do at NextPath too, and jobs. So that totally resonates.
Right.
It's important.
Hopefully you'll do another one here because I know May 7th is coming up soon.
It is.
We would love to be able to promote it. So next year, hopefully we'll be able to get the word out even sooner.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'd love for you guys to promote it. This is our 3rd year doing an event in Tampa, not a career fair. This is our 1st year doing a career fair, but we always do a big fundraising event here in Tampa. So I suspect that next year we will also do another career fair, depending on how this one goes. So that would be great. And if anyone is interested, this airs and the career fair is already over, but anyone is interested in mentoring a Gold Star student or beneficiary, I would love for them to reach out to me. We have a ton of students who, I mean, span every career field you can imagine. So reach out to me. I can maybe help place you with the student or beneficiary who's interested.
And what is a gold star?
So a gold star is what we call gold star or memorial star. So memorial star is what we call our CIA kids whose parent has a star on the wall of honor inside CIA. And then a gold star kid is a child whose parent was killed in action in military side usually. A majority of the CIA people killed in action in CIA were former military. So like my dad was from a entity within the CIA called Ground Branch, and it's all former special forces guys. I shouldn't say all, but to my understanding, it's a lot of them are former special forces who retire out and then join Ground Branch because that portion of CIA is a lot of, in country stuff. They're doing similar things. Like, for example, when my dad went into Afghanistan, he went in with one of the Green Beret units, third group, I believe, or fifth group, actually. I think it was fifth group. So, but yeah, that's how we distinguish those kids. We call them Gold Star families, Gold Star kids, Gold Star spouses, things like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
I found out we actually have a billboard near the base that has like soft stock on,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
so on display. So, I don't know how secret we're keeping it, but
There's a
look, our fundraisers every year are secret concerts. The one here in Tampa we call Soft Stock because it's in conjunction with Soft Week, which takes place here in Tampa every year. They're invite only concerts, but we usually have a big act who comes. This year we have Lee Bryce, who has a really special connection with one of our students. Several, I shouldn't say several. I know of a few songs of his big hits that were written about this family. One of them is "I Drive Your Truck," which is a song about a father who goes off to war, and his family remembers him by driving his truck around town, listening to the music that he had, in the CD player,
Cassette tapes.
the
and
cassette tape
oh
or the
my
CD
gosh.
or whatever. Yeah. So we usually have a big act that comes, and that's how we fundraise to support these nonprofits. So
well, I know it's invite only, but it's
Invite
good
only, yeah.
to get the make awareness. Like
Right.
absolutely, yeah. And there is a billboard outside of McDill Air Force Base, kind of advertising. So I guess it's kind of like if you know, you know. So
Right.
if anyone's interested, just reach out. If you're interested in sponsoring, we have sponsorships available for tickets and things like that.
Okay.
And it just helps us fund our mission.
Right.
And the career fair is at Emily Arena and same.
So
right?
the career fair is actually at Quiet Professionals at Rocky
Oh,
Point.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they've donated space for us to do the career fair,
Great, okay.
which is really exciting. So it'll be in Rocky Point on Tuesday, May 7th from 9 a.m. until noon.
Okay.
And we still have slots available. So if you want to come as a mentor or if you actually have jobs, just reach out to me.
Nice. Yeah.
We'll get the word out.
Yeah.
But thank you, Allison, so
Thank you so
much for
much.
sharing your story and for being here. This
We'll have to
has
keep your
been
contact
amazing.
information on
Absolutely.
our like show notes and stuff too.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Please. Yeah. Please put it out there. If anyone wants to reach out and help with our mentorship program, if they have jobs, whatever. Yeah. Feel free to reach out.
Great. Well, as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and rate us. And until next time.
Live bold and boss up.